Hello, beautiful peaches. Welcome to the Macros, Metabolism, and Motivation Beautiful Peach podcast. I'm your host, Caitlen, here to help you find your most unwavering love, beauty, and kindness for yourself inside and out. I will be teaching you nutrition and macro tracking secrets, reverse diet and metabolism health tips and tricks, and motivating the heck out of you so you will want to leap up and start conquering your goals right away. I am here to help bring you the light at the end of the tunnel so you can discover that self-love and truly become the most confident, beautiful peach possible. So grab a pen and a piece of paper, or if you're in the car at the gym, go ahead and bump up your volume just a little so we can drown out those gym grunters next to you, and we can go ahead and dive right in. Don't forget to snag your completely free high-protein macro cookbook by simply doing a 5-star rate and review on this podcast. All you need to do is submit a 5-star rate and review, then send us your name and email through the link in the show notes so we know exactly where to send your cookbook. By submitting your 5-star rate review, this will also automatically enter you into the weekly podcast macro calculator giveaway. Every week, I give away a copy of my See You Schmidt macro calculator to one lovely winner who leaves an awesome 5-star rate and review. This winner is announced every week on my Instagram story as well as my newsletter email list. So leave that 5-star rate and review, and I'll see you in the episode. What is up, my beautiful peach? I am very excited about today's episode. I will say I took me a full honesty moment here. In this moment, still trying to decide what I want the official title to be. So when you are actually seeing it in your podcast app, it will likely be one of these three. Working out too much is causing your plateau. Are you using the gym as a punishment? Or this one's not going to fly. Are you working out to feel good, ... or punishment for bad food? Which, yes, very fitting, but that as a podcast title, probably not going to work. So we will see, but today's episode is going to be so good. It's the sequel to episode 111, Why You Cannot Properly Build Muscle in a Calorie Deficit. So today we're really going to be taking a deep dive into, if you're working your absolute tail feather off, you're not seeing changes, maybe you're doing a ton of cardio every single day, no days off from the gym, and you're exhausted. And so today I'm going to be talking through the top 2 reasons that you are working your butt off in the gym and you are not seeing changes. And just a reminder, this is a sequel to episode 111, so make sure you go back and listen to last week's episode if you have not. So let's go ahead and dive into episode 112. Have you ever thought, I went way off track this weekend, I need to make it up by working harder in the gym this weekend? Or, the holidays are coming up, I need to get a few extra cardio sessions in. Or, maybe even, we are going to be having a big dinner tonight this weekend, or a holiday dinner, so I need to go to the gym first thing in the morning and get a good old cardio session in to prepare for all of the food that I will be eating. I have had all of those feelings and then some. So many different thoughts when it comes to making up for the food that I am eating in the future or have already eaten. And these thoughts can honestly be explained. I have this written down in my notes here. It's, quote, I have to work out in order to, quote, make up for a bad diet mentality. And bad diet. And I don't like the term bad diet, but there's people understand what I'm saying when I say that, and it's a great way to describe what I'm talking about, okay? So it's the feeling of like, I have to work out in order to make up for eating bad. And I think what's, frustrates me a lot in just the industry is around the new year, we see this massive uptick of gym memberships giving all the deals, talking about, burning off those holiday treats. And it's like, oh, come on, you're supposed to be helping people. Don't make them feel more guilt. Or diets coming out of the absolute woodwork with all the things you can possibly think of. I've seen what were we watching? Some sort of football. I don't know. I don't pay attention to what the football game was. But on New Year's, there was a football game, and you're probably shaking your head at me. I don't know who was playing. I am not great, but I did very much enjoy the Rose Bowl parade. So I guess it was the Rose Bowl, which was the actual football game. But I enjoyed the parade very, very much. It was great. So outside of that, I remember seeing all of these different, I think Glow or Go Low or something like that was a diet. There was another one that was being pushed non-stop. And I'm just, it just makes me cringe. It makes me cringe. And, even on social media, people saying you have to do X number of push-ups, you have to do X number of minutes of cardio just to eat up or make up for eating one cookie. And it's like, we have that right there, right off the bat is the start of the diet mentality. It's the start of the mentality that we have to work out. We have to go to the gym. We have to go to these workout classes solely to work off the bad food and solely to try and, make ourselves feel better for consuming that food that the diet industry is making us feel bad. What's so interesting to me is a lot of times we aren't actually working out and doing this excess cardio in those scenarios where we're trying to, quote unquote, work something off to make our bodies feel better, but we're trying to make ourselves mentally not feel guilty for what the diet industry is pushing us to feel guilty for. And I had that realization. I was like, that's actually kind of wild. That's kind of wild. I had that realization as I was making my notes for this podcast. Back when I was, in this restrictive place, in this restrict binge place, I was in a place where I would go to the gym for extra cardio. I would do extra workouts. I would do workout twice a day because I thought that would be helping me work off the food that I was eating. And I wasn't doing it to make my body feel better. I was doing it because I didn't want to feel guilty and I didn't want to be off track and I didn't want to feel like a failure. And it's wild because when you think about that, and I want to talk through my personal journey a little bit more, but when you think about it, it's taking away the ability for us to work out for our health and to feel good and for long-term, to work out now and to take care of our bodies now so we don't end up in the hospital with, endless hospital bills. Like, take care of you now. And so I do want to get deeper. I want to talk about my personal journey here. Trisket just curled up under my desk. What you doing, girl? She only does that when it's raining and it's like beautiful out today. So I think she's just impatient and wants to go on a walk. I can't say the word because she will know what that word is. So let's talk about my personal journey and then I will take her on a walk. And then she will get a treat if she's good. And she will be because I love her. That's not why she's good. She's just watching me. She might be on to me. But let's talk about this personal journey of mine, okay? I think a lot of people relate to it. And I think for a lot of people too, they have been dieting for an extremely long time. I have people who have been dieting since middle school even. Clients of mine who are in their 60s who have been dieting since middle school, their whole entire life. And they're like, no, I don't want to spend this last chapter of my life in this place of dieting. I want to live, okay? So high school. I played lacrosse, I ran cross country, I always had some sort of sport going on. And in high school, we had a little gym in our little high school, athletic area, I guess. And so I would leave for school early. I would go to the gym at 5 a.m. I would do my little workout. I would strength train. And then I would go to lacrosse or cross country, depending on which was in practice, what season it was. And I would have that, that practice. So that's my second workout of the day. I was eating like a rabbit. I was listening to every diet there was out there. I, at that time, probably was drinking skinny coffee, making me have tummy issues. And I didn't see what I was doing. I didn't see that this was the start. I mean, now looking back, I can very clearly see it. But I didn't realize at the time that was the start to a journey that would progressively get worse and worse and worse, okay? Move forward to freshman year of college. I was working out at this point 7 days a week. Some days I would run 6 miles, sometimes more, and also go to the gym same day. I had crazy massive guilt if I didn't hit a certain step count, if I didn't hit a number on the treadmill, if I missed a day at the gym. And I think, the comment, and just to give you guys some clarity of where I'm at now, I'm eating quite a large amount of food. I don't like to say the exact number because I don't want people to compare themselves, but I'm eating far over 2,000 calories. Okay, I'm eating a lot of food. I work out right now. I lift weights 3 times a week. That's what I'm doing right now. In this season of life, that's what's working absolutely wonderful for me. And my husband has started to run because it makes him happy and it makes him feel good. And he can run 4 miles, rock star. And so every once in a while, I'll go for a run with him. I think that because I have a background in like cross country and running in a non-healthy way, I still can pretty easily pick up and run a few miles with him. So every once in a while, I'll do that. And that's solely, I don't count that in my workouts. I don't count that at all. That's more of just like, Colton goes for a run and I'm like, hey, or he's like, hey, you want to join me? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? And I'll go for a run. Sometimes I'll stop, I'll walk. Sometimes I'll walk. Oops. I keep saying the word and she's looking at me. Sorry, little one. We'll go soon. I forgot. She's looking at me like, you're saying the word, Mom. A W-A-L-K. Anyway, I even used her name. Poor baby. I said her name plus W-A-L-K, and she probably thought that's what you're about to do. So anyway, the common denominator with, my high school years, my freshman year of college is I really wasn't working out to feel good. I was using it as a punishment. And often it was the all or nothing mentality. But the problem here is I really wasn't doing it to feel good. I was doing it to try and attain a certain body shape. I was doing it to feel better for, the drinks that I consumed or the food that I ate or, whatever it may be. I was trying to make myself internally feel better rather than looking at the gym or my working out, as something to make me feel rejuvenated, to make me feel excited, to make me feel good. And then looking at my mental health as something to take care of on its own and to love my body on its own at every stage of its journey. And so two really big problems arose from this stage in my life that I want to walk you through, because now being on the other side, you might be experiencing, those stages that I have been in, and you might resonate with this. And I think I will admit, I think I'm actually very lucky that I was able to get out of that diet world after my freshman year. I went through a very, very deep growing process, internal process, changed my major. If you don't know the story about me, I was actually on a path to become a dentist or orthodontist. I had braces for 8 years, an overbite, headgear, whole 9 yards, cute child. And I have spent a lot of time in a dentist or orthodontist office. And I am so mad at myself because I stopped wearing my retainer on my bottom teeth, and now one tooth is crooked, and I'm like trying to jam my retainer back down, and I'm like, I don't think this is probably a good thing. And so I might have to go back in and I might get braces again. I'm like, do I just leave it? I'm like, no, I spent so long wearing braces. Why shouldn't I not just wear my retainer? Anyway, I got lazy with wearing the retainer, even though everybody says just to wear it. And I wore it at night. All it was, I put it in at night, tiny little retainer on the bottom teeth. The top one haven't moved so far, knock on wood or something. I don't know if that's real wood. I don't know if my desk is real wood or not. I think it is. Anyway, wear your retainer, kids. Or I should say adults, because we are all adults here. So I had something to say and I completely went off track. Oh, I was just talking about my journey. Yeah, so I wanted to be a orthodontist or a dentist and help other people have nice, pretty smiles and have their teeth fixed, because it really did. My teeth were pretty bad and I was very insecure of them, and I love my teeth now, and they've gone through a lot. So I was on that path. And then as I was going through this journey of inner healing and struggling with my relationship with food and struggling with my body image and struggling just really, really in a dark place. I really was. I was in a really dark place. Friends were concerned about me. I was in a dark place. And I started to change via education, and education changed my life. I always say tracking macros changed my life, reverse dieting changed my life. Yes, but the very first thing that happened was education. I started to learn the what, the why, and how behind our body, behind our metabolism, behind the way that our body works, behind nutrients, behind moderation. I started to learn those pieces. And I changed my major in college at Clemson University, go Tigers, to, even though I don't pay attention to football, but to nutrition and dietetics. I was on the path to actually become a dietitian in a hospital, to work in a hospital. Went on to get my master's degree in exercise science and sports nutrition, where I really learned about, sustainable fat loss, macros, the human metabolism. I've got so many textbooks behind me on my bookshelf, all about the human metabolism, all about reverse dieting, all about metabolic adaptation, about all of these different things. And I ended up writing my master's thesis on reverse dieting to heal our metabolism from that diet burnout so we can sustainably lose weight, and the impact of dieting on our mentality. And so I went through a very large journey that I am not saying you need to go back to school. I'm not saying to change your career path. I'm not saying to, do any of those things. My point is I have gone through all the work. I am here to help teach you. My point with this is education changed my life. And that's why I'm so proud of you for being here, for listening to these episodes, for showing up, for going and grabbing my metabolism report. I create these, my free metabolism. If you haven't heard my other podcast episodes, I have my free metabolism report and mini course, and it's completely free, and it's more education. And this is actually going to allow you to figure out if you have a slow metabolism, where it needs to be, and then if you need a reverse diet or if you can do a calorie deficit. I have all of these things that I've been coaching full-time for 6 years and running my company for 6 years. And I've worked with over, 3,500 women. And the common denominator is education, number one, but number two, you showing up for you. Okay. I am lucky that I had that change. I am lucky that it was a lot quicker than a lot of women who have been dieting for 30 plus years. And also I can tell you right here and now that common denominator is education and you showing up for you. So if you show up for you, if you make those changes happen now, if you stop playing, the small game, and if you start making decisions and showing up like the woman that you want to be proud of and that you want to be, it will happen. You will get there. Okay. Now, the two main problems, because this relates to it, that was kind of going on is I was, number one, overtraining. So let's talk through overtraining a little bit. And this somewhat relates to our last podcast episode. So many people think of rest days as bad. If I take a rest day, I will be off track. And I had this thought process for all the way up until I actually learned about rest days and how our body works and all of that, and the science behind rest days in my education, which I talked a little bit about how muscle is, how we build muscle and proteins impact on muscle in the last episode. But I want to talk a little bit more on rest days today. If I took a rest day, it would be the end of the world. It would actually turn into a full spiral, which is kind of wild. That one rest day would lead to me saying, screw it, I'm already off track. I would binge eat. I would, go crazy for the weekend. I would often last more than just a week. Sometimes it was 2 weeks. And so learning the science behind why rest days are actually a good thing was incredibly eye-opening to me, because scary to execute, it really was. It was scary to execute taking or starting to have rest days and taking a step back from my working out, because I was so trained that if I did not work out every day, if I did not go, 110% energy, max this, max that, run, lift, I didn't do that so intensely that I would be off track. And so it's really hard. It's hard. I mean, it is the mental side of things. To be so straight up with you, it's hard to change your mentality when we have been ingrained by the diet industry and still see it every single day, everywhere we look, even when we go to the gym, even when we do this and that is telling us the opposite of what we're trying to do and the opposite of what science tells us, okay? So it's scary to execute, but endlessly relieving and so freeing when you actually do make that change, okay? Make that change being stop overworking out, stop, going so hard you're tired all the time. I actually also cycle sync my workouts to my cycle. So literally cycle sync. And so different phases of your cycle, you can have different energy exertions, have different workouts, except, well, I shouldn't say different workouts. I still do the same workouts, but the amount of energy that I'm putting into them will change, and that's okay. I'm not trying to, PR, max out the amount of weight that I'm doing all the time. Okay. I want to interrupt this so lovely podcast episode of mine to let you know that BPM, my beautiful peach mastermind, is open for enrollment. BPM is my high-level group coaching program for women who want to reverse diet to heal their metabolism from that restrictive burnout so they can lose the weight and keep it off for good. It is for women who want to increase their energy and joy for life so they can chase after their kiddos, go out to eat with their significant other, and even have wine night with the girls without that restrict, binge, and food guilt cycle. As a bonus, all of my BPM clients get complimentary access to my reverse diet course. Well, you will learn exactly how to adjust macros for reverse dieting on your own. This quite literally includes my own personal spreadsheets that help you customize your reverse diet for your success. I even threw in my alcohol plug-and-play tracker for you ladies. Go ahead and apply through the link in the show notes or hop over to my Instagram and feel free to send me the DM BPM sneak peek for my inside look of the program details. I can't wait to see your application and enjoy the rest of the episode. I think the frustrating part for me as someone who has been in this industry, who has, the education, who has this is like what I do and what I know to be true and how our body works and all those things, is the diet industry is still there. And I'm like, I want to shut you down, diet industry. But it works because the first time somebody ever works out or ever does a diet, it works for them until it stops working. So the first time you diet and the first time you ever work out, you're likely not already restricted. You're likely not already overworking out. You go hard in the restriction, you go hard in the cardio, and then all of a sudden, 6 months in, your body starts to rebel, and it's like it was working until it wasn't. And diets, and I said this in the last episode, but diets turn away. It's like a blind eye, right? They're like, oops, it's not working anymore. Oops, you hit that point. Okay, gonna look away. I'm gonna take your testimonial though, and I'm gonna put it up, but I'm gonna look away. And it's so frustrating because it's not fair to you. It's not fair for the thousands of women who are dieting and who are trusting these diets, and it's tearing their trust of themselves apart. And so for me as a coach, it is so incredibly amazing for you to start gaining that trust back, because what I teach is fueling our body, bringing it back to the basics, eating food and using food as fuel. I will never tell you that you can or cannot have something. I would never tell you you can or cannot go out to eat. I want you to do the real world things. And I want you to start to unlearn that diet mentality, which goes into, our gym mentality, if you will, because it allows us to stop overtraining as much. And it allows us to kind of take a step into the world of healing our body through food, and also healing our body and our relationship with the gym and relationship with working out. Maybe not just the gym, not everybody strength trains, so that your relationship with working out overall. And to give you a Spark Notes version of the way that muscle is built, this is in the last episode, but to give you the Spark Notes version, because this is about to go with my second little tip here, is when we strength train, we create what's called a microscopic tear, if you want to be super technical, but it's micro tear basically. And these are good tears. We want them. So it's when we're lifting weights, we're putting stress on the muscle, and it's creating that microscopic tear. These tiny tears are healed by protein, number one. So food overall, so protein, carbs, and fat, we need to have adequate food. But our proteins specifically are the little builders, and they're going to hurry scurry into that little micro tear. And they're actually going to heal it. Oh, that kind of hurts. I gave blood last week and it's still sore. It hurts. I passed out too. I was like, I didn't think that was probably way TMI, but I didn't think, I was like, I don't like needles. I don't like blood being taken from me. But I'm saving lives. And it's so cool because they text you when like your donation is on the way to the hospital. And I'm like, they texted me yesterday and I started crying. What is up with me and crying on these podcast episodes? But I was just so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm saving a life. But I passed out and I was doing so well. I got to the 15 minutes of the blood being drawn. And I got to the very end and Colton's there with me. And I'm like, wow, I'm doing really good. Like, this is great. And then out I go. I passed out and I was like, okay. I hate passing out. It's so freaky. You wake up and you're like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's happening. Colton said he was right in front of my face. He caught my head. It was just a whole thing. It was a whole thing. But I saved a life and I'm happy for that. Actually, I saved 3 lives, supposedly. It's so worth it. Go donate blood, kids. I always say kids, but we're all adults here. So anyway, coming back to this. How did we get there? How did we just get there? Oh, because I had my hand on my arm and it hurt from the blood drawn. I was like, how do we go from micro tears to donating blood? The way my mind works. So we've got these micro tears. They're good. The protein will go heal the micro tear and build a little bit of muscle on top. And the second piece here, which is going to be my step number 2, is we absolutely need to have rest and recovery if we were actually going to build muscle, okay? To give you some insight here, when we sleep, this is actually the top amount of time that we are having total recovery for our body, which is why I encourage you to all sleep. I actually tell my BPM clients also to have a protein high meal before bed, aka why it's a myth that you shouldn't be eating before bed. It's going to cause weight gain. It's like, nah, that's not true. Eat your meal before bed, have protein in there. Go ahead and have carbs and fat in there as well. Track your macros. You'll be golden. But my thought here too, and this is going to be a good way to think about this. If you imagine yourself staying awake for 40 hours, maybe back in college, you pulled an all-nighter, maybe when you were, something for work and you're working late and you're just like not getting sleep, you don't feel good. Your mind's not working as well. You're probably having some bloat, water retention. You're probably getting some headaches. I don't know what all else happens to your body when you're not getting enough sleep. I'm not the sleep expert. I am the metabolism expert. But our body is not used to that. And so it cannot fully recharge. Our battery cannot fully recharge unless we're getting the full on rest when we're sleeping. And you know what? This can actually be like our blood being taken. I'm sorry for this if that's gross. I really hope this isn't gross to people. But when you think about me passing out, we're gonna use this real world experience as an example. Leave it to me. Okay. So when you think about the fact that I got through the entire 15 minutes of the blood being drawn, I was fine, started feeling woozy at the end, and I passed out. I actually asked Colton, I was like, I wasn't feeling stressed. I didn't even ever looked. I was like looking out to the side the whole time. I never looked at it. Like it didn't feel comfortable. Sure. No, it didn't feel comfortable. It didn't really hurt. It's uncomfy. And I was like, why did I pass out? Like I thought I was doing so well. And he works in a hospital, so he's very knowledgeable with all of these things. And he basically said that my body, so our bodies don't know the difference between me voluntarily giving my blood versus me just like bleeding out. It does not understand the difference of me being in true danger versus me just volunteering my blood. It's depleted, and so it passes out, which we were laughing because we're like, that's not really a good protective mechanism just to pass out. Like say, back in the day, we're cavemen hunting for food and, a bear attacks us. Like we just pass out. Okay, well, you're toast now. It's like, what kind of protective mechanism is that? Anyway, made me giggle a little bit, but dieting is so similar to that in the sense that people do not understand that our body is here to protect us. And when we willingly choose to restrict our food intake, we would really willingly are choosing to like malnourish our body. Our body doesn't understand the difference between us choosing to not eat and us being out in the wild and not being able to find food. And I talked about this actually in podcast episode 87, how a calorie deficit can sabotage your weight loss goals. And at podcast episode 89, binge eating and its impact on weight loss and metabolic health. Those two are really good ones. And I talk about that in here, just like the negative effects of long-term calorie deficits. But coming back to sleep and the recovery, it's the same. Our body does not do well without sleep, and we cannot build muscle without recovery time. So muscle growth truly is no different. If your body does not have rest, your protein can't go. If you're just continuously lifting and continuously putting strain on your body and your muscles, the builders, aka the protein, are going to trickle in there, but they're really going to wait until you're fully resting to all run in and do the healing. So if you're forever on the go, there's no time for those little protein builders to go and fully heal that muscle and have that muscle growth and recovery. And the scientific term for this is called overtraining syndrome. So it is a true thing that happens, and your body will actually react to this. And I wonder if I do. So I actually wrote down some of the symptoms. I was going through my notes. I kept all my notes from college and my grad school. And I was going through the notes, and I have something else that I want to actually talk to you about too. It was something that I learned at Clemson when I was working the athletic department there. But overtraining, you might honestly have no idea you're overtraining. But ways that you can determine this is, number one, if you've been in a prolonged calorie deficit and are working your tail feather off, decreased performance, lack of muscle growth, fatigue, altered hormonal status, poor sleeping patterns, reproductive disorders, getting sick more often because it impacts your immune system, loss of appetite, mood swings. There was a bunch of other things that I wrote down, but those were the top ones. I actually was struggling with all of them back in the day. And I remember I all of them, literally all of them. Anyway, it's just wild. And I think something that's really important is, let me go back to my other piece here that I want to talk about, is so many people, and even with athletes. So I've worked with athletes in my life. Now I don't work with any athletic teams. I know I'm a sports nutritionist, but I decided to take the path of supporting women heal their metabolism to get out of that diet burnout. So women who have been dieting, women who have been stuck in this place, who want to see the changes, who want to lose the fat, but they're eating 1,200 calories. But something super interesting that is the same but different is there's something called the female athlete triad. And I learned this in a little bit actually at Clemson, and then really, really in depth in my master's degree in grad school. But we had this happen a lot at Clemson, is a lot of the women had this female athlete triad, and it was, they were under eating. I'm completely forgetting. I want to check something, and I don't have it in my notes here, but basically I'll tell you what I wanted to check in just a second. But the female athlete triad is basically irregular periods. So your hormones are completely out of whack. Number 2, low energy and disordered eating. So when we're not eating enough, we don't have energy availability, and it's going to cause massive issues to our energy. And then low bone density, which is actually pretty wild. And I wanted to actually look up the specifics and kind of like what the definition was when it came to the overworking out period, or a piece of this, but it's basically like you are working out so much and under eating that it's causing these issues. And so I learned about this at Clemson. And it's something that a lot of female athletes struggle with. But I think what's really super interesting is you can see this in non-athletes as well. So you and I. So, women who are dieting, women who are working out to see changes, and truly women who are in the diet industry. And it's super interesting because I worked with these clients. I saw these people, I'm seeing these clients who are having these reactions, and it all comes down to the amount of food that we're eating, right? We're not fueling our body because the diet industry tells us to. The amount that we're working out, we are overworking because the diet industry tells us to. And it's wild to me, and not to toot my own horn, but this is why you need to work with a professional. Like, hi, it's me. This is what I do for a living. Because the lack of information, the lack of people out there who understand, have this experience, have this expertise, and have been there needs to be a lot higher, and it's not. There is an oversaturation of, I don't want to get too deep into this, but women who are coaches, the number of people who call themselves coaches and stuff are out there in the world who are coming to me asking why their clients aren't seeing results. And I'm like, you shouldn't be coaching if you don't know what you're doing. Sorry, this is a whole different can of worms that we do not need to go down. Please, please, please make sure, whether you work with me, which would be amazing, I've got your back, or if you don't, just make sure you have an educated professional who is supporting you, okay? So we're kind of getting on a little side rant here, but the main thing here is I want to walk through a couple questions of, will taking rest days cause you to lose muscle, okay? We know we need those rest days because that is when the most muscle growth and recovery happens. So are you losing muscle on those rest days as well? No, 100% no. This is when we are having the most amount of muscle growth, basically when our body is in this space of rest and we're sitting. And you don't have to, when I say rest, you don't need to be sitting on a couch potato all day if you don't want to. Get up, go for walks, I go for a walk almost every single day. What I mean when I say take a rest day is don't go hard at the gym or, whatever it may be. Take a rest day, go for a walk if you want to, but don't feel bad if you are sitting on the couch all day. Don't feel bad if you are just truly sitting there and being, because this is when our body is going to have the max amount of muscle growth and recovery. You will not lose muscle in that place, in that time. You will actually gain more muscle. Somebody always has this question, how many rest days should you take? And I actually talked a little bit about this on the last podcast episode. I personally would say take a minimum of 2 rest days, When I went from 7 days a week of over-exercising down to 2 days a week, I saw more energy, I saw more muscle growth, I felt better, I was sleeping better, just immediately that right off the bat made a huge difference. Then with reverse dieting, healing your metabolism, eating enough macros, eating enough food was huge as well. I currently lift 3 days a week. That's just what is fitting for me in this stage of my life, and I feel absolutely amazing. and I love it. Okay. I also just realized that I haven't even gone through my second little tip here. We're going to talk about the second piece here. So funny. For some reason, I thought I said a second tip, but I guess not. So this is the second reason why you're not seeing results. And we have kind of talked about this. I kind of created a conglomeration, if you will, in this episode. But you might be working out as punishment, okay? I had a terrible relationship with food. I could not control what I was eating. I was binging all the time. I could not for the life of me find success with restricting my food, and I was really struggling. I had a really bad relationship with food. I also had a really bad relationship with my body. I woke up unhappy in my own skin every single day. I played into my mentality every single day. I had social anxiety. I didn't want to go out with my friends. I wore clothes to hide my body. It played into the way that I showed up in my confidence, okay? I could control the gym. I could control the amount that I went to the gym. And so the reaction was, I thought that I was doing the right thing. In reality, I was not doing the right thing. I was working out every day. I was sometimes working out twice a day, and I was hoping for the best. I had no idea that I was leading myself to completely overtraining and total burnout. And I was totally unaware, because the diet industry, and I know I keep saying this, but the diet industry does not teach you the education behind what we need to do. And so I think it's so exciting for me when I'm in this place where somebody comes to me and they're like, yeah, I have taken, I took two rest days. I heard you said it on your podcast, or if somebody DM'd me and they're like, oh, definitely take 2 rest days. And they're like, this is incredible. I started tracking my macros. I'm taking 2 rest days and I already feel like a new person. And I'm like, you have barely just begun, and this is incredible. Like, you are at the very beginning of this 100 chapter journey. You're on chapter 1 and you're already feeling good. And it's incredible and it's amazing. And it's exciting, okay? It's so incredibly exciting. And I know sometimes too, it feels overwhelming and you're like, this is so much information, so much to do. And I talked about this actually in 2 podcast episodes ago. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. It's the 4 steps to start your reverse diet, podcast episode 110. I kind of talk about breaking things down into bite-sizable pieces that you can start with the basic and work your way up. So if you are overtraining and you're a little bit nervous to kind of take a step back, you haven't started tracking your macros and you're like, ooh, I need to, pick one piece and master that first. So maybe for you, it is quote unquote mastering. It is taking those 2 rest days and mastering the confidence around those rest days. Now, I will say, as I'm saying this, I'm kind of like, ooh, I actually almost might recommend trying to track your macros so I would actually say maybe start tracking your macros first, just because when it comes to seeing changes, food comes first. We also don't want you overtraining. So in this case, I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know, do them both at the same time, but I'm telling you to do one at a time. Point being is really try and not run to the finish line. Like, you might want to reverse diet. You might want to lose 50 pounds. You might want all of these pieces, but go ahead and take a step back and slowly but surely build yourself into that place and start with the basics and build up. So with all this, I know this episode got way long again. I always do this. I'm like, this is going to be a 15-minute episode. And then I'm like, oh, we are 37 minutes in. With all this, I am just always endlessly so proud of you. If you have not listened to podcast episode 111, this is the previous podcast episode. Go ahead and listen to that one. It is so good. And it has it's kind of like the starting information, the level 1 of these 2 episodes. And then, I guess I said at the beginning of this episode to go listen to it, so you might have already done that. But point being, make sure you listen to that one as well. I adore you all to pieces. Do not ever forget to DM me on Instagram. I am always here to chat. And I'm always grateful to know that you are enjoying my podcast, and I adore you all to pieces. So with all this, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye, my beautiful peach.